My family didn't whisper when they mocked me. They said it plainly, right in the middle of the living room, while the evening sun stretched long amber lines across the carpet and dust drifted lazily in the air like tiny glowing particles trying to escape the tension. My mother folded napkins for the rehearsal dinner, crisping the edges with a precision she never applied to our relationship. My father scrolled through his phone with that half-smirk he reserved for moments when he felt superior, an expression I'd memorized long before I learned how to unlearn it. And then he said it. "On your uncle's wedding day," he murmured casually, "it's better if you're not there." My mother didn't look up. She nodded once as if agreeing with the weather forecast. The smell of fabric softener drifted from the laundry room, warm and sweet, but it didn't soften anything they said next. "The greatest gift," she added, "would be you vanishing from this family for good." Her words landed with the soft force of a falling feather, gentle enough to disguise the bruise it made on impact. "My name is Evelyn Cole. I'm 28 years old, and on the week of my uncle's wedding, my family told me that my absence would be a gift. They said it with the kind of dismissive certainty that only people who have never examined their own cruelty can muster. If this resonates with you, share your thoughts. It means more than you know. I remember sitting on the edge of the couch, a mug of cooling tea in my hands. The lemon steam curled upward in a thin ribbon that caught the light before fading into the room. My fingers tightened around the ceramic as if the warmth could keep me from dissolving. What did I do? I managed. My mother exhaled sharply. "Evelyn, please. Don't make this dramatic. It's not about you. It's about keeping the peace." Keeping the peace. A phrase they'd used all my life to justify decisions that conveniently silenced me. My father added, "Your presence makes things tense." Tense. As if my existence were an atmospheric disturbance. I looked around the room, the framed family portraits, the vase of lilies filling the house with their sweet, slightly overwhelming scent, the crystal bowl holding the cufflinks for the groomsmen. Everything was prepared for celebration, for unity, for joy. All except for the truth living quietly between us. A memory drifted in, uninvited. I was 7, sitting on the back steps with skinned knees bleeding down my shins. My mother had told me to stop crying, and when I couldn't, she'd sighed and said, "Why can't you just make things easier?" The porch smelled like wet wood and distant lawnmower clippings. My knees burned. She went back inside. That was the first time I learned the cost of being inconvenient. Tonight felt like a continuation of that moment, just larger, sharper, more final. I set my mug down slowly, careful not to spill. "I don't want to ruin anything," I said softly. My father shrugged. "Then don't come." No discussion. No empathy. Just a dismissal masquerading as a solution. The room grew quiet except for the faint hum of the refrigerator cycling on. The air felt heavier, thick with the unsaid things we'd bottled for years. I waited for someone to soften, to reconsider, to say we didn't mean it that way. Nobody did. What surprised me most wasn't their cruelty, it was how unsurprising it felt. I rose from the couch. My knees wobbled slightly, not from fear but from the sudden awareness that I was stepping into the version of myself that had waited decades to exist. "I'll pack my things," I said. My mother finally looked up. Not with concern. With relief. As if she'd just set down a heavy box she'd always resented carrying. I walked down the hallway, my socks brushing softly against the wooden floor. The faint smell of old books drifted from the study. My childhood bedroom waited for me, painted in the same faded blue I'd chosen when I was 12, when dreams still fit neatly into categories you could name out loud. I opened the closet and began folding my clothes. One shirt at a time. One small life at a time. The evening breeze filtered through the window, bringing in the scent of pine from the backyard. The branches outside swayed lightly, tapping against the glass like they were trying to offer comfort. As I packed, another memory surfaced. I was 15, sitting in the kitchen with a math test face down on the table. 98%. My father walked in, glanced at it, and said, "Why not 100? The disappointment in his voice was louder than any anger could have been. Some families cut you with knives. Mine cut with expectations. When the suitcase was full, I zipped it slowly, the sound long and deliberate. Like closing the cover on a chapter I'd reread too many times hoping the ending would change. I stepped into the hallway. My father didn't look up from his phone. My mother continued folding napkins. Their indifference felt like confirmation rather than rejection. At the front door I paused. The house smelled like lavender cleaner and simmering stew, warm scents that never reached the parts of me that needed warmth most. "I hope the wedding is beautiful," I said quietly. Neither of them responded. Silence was agreement. I opened the door. The hinges creaked softly as if reluctant to let me go. Evening air rushed in cool, crisp, carrying the distant scent of rain. I stepped outside, suitcase rolling behind me, its wheels thudding gently against the porch steps. Then I closed the door. It clicked shut with a calm finality. A full stop. A sentence ending. I stood on the porch, the twilight settling blue and soft around me. Somewhere down the street a dog barked, a sprinkler hissed and a porch light flickered on, bathing the sidewalk in a warm glow. I felt something shift inside. Not breaking, not collapsing, but unfurling. My absence, they believed, would make their lives easier. What none of us knew then was how deeply my presence, and then my disappearance, would shape the days that followed. Especially the wedding day. Because instead of celebration, joy, and perfect photographs with polished smiles, the only thing that arrived was panic. And they had no idea I would be the reason why. I didn't go far that first night. Just a few miles down the road to a small rented room above a bakery, the kind of place that smelled like warm dough at dawn and cinnamon by afternoon. The walls were thin, the furniture simple, the window cracked slightly from years of opening and closing. But it was mine. Mine in a way my childhood home had never truly been. The first night I slept lightly. The air smelled faintly of sugar and yeast, and the hum of the bakery's refrigerators below vibrated gently through the floor. Dawn crept in through paper-thin curtains, painting pale gold shapes along the ceiling. I woke up before my alarm, my mind swimming somewhere between disbelief and relief. I had left. Not in anger. Not in chaos. Just, finally. I made tea in the tiny kitchenette. The steam drifted upward, curling into the soft morning light. My phone buzzed twice. Missed calls from my cousin asking if I'd be at the rehearsal. I didn't reply. By noon, the day of the wedding arrived. The sky was crystal blue, the kind of color that makes everything feel sharper. Rooftops, leaves, even shadows. A breeze carried the smell of freshly cut grass and something floral drifting from the wedding venue 2 neighborhoods away. I wasn't invited. But absence has a way of making itself known. The first message came from my cousin. "Where are you? They can't find the rings." I blinked at the screen. The rings. I had kept them safe for months because my uncle trusted me with tasks requiring care and reliability, 2 things no one else in my family ever acknowledged. I had returned them the day before. Placed them neatly on the hallway table. Said nothing. The silence created its own consequences. I set my phone down and poured more tea. The steam warmed my face. The bakery downstairs clattered with morning rush hour. Cups clicking, ovens opening, the soft murmur of customers placing orders. 5 minutes later. "Evelyn, please answer. Dad is losing it." I stared at the message, tracing the edges of my mug with my thumb. Another drifting memory surfaced. One that had stayed dormant for years. I was 11, standing at the edge of a family photo. My father had whispered behind me, "Don't make that face. You ruin the picture." My uncle had pulled me gently to his side, resting a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Smile however you want," he'd said. "Not all love is loud. Some is subtle and quiet." Another message buzzed through. "Mom can't find the speech cards. Did you take them?" Of course I didn't. I had written the speech for my uncle at his request. Every word crafted carefully during late nights when the house was quiet. But the printed cards. My mother had insisted on handling them. This panic, I realized, wasn't about forgotten items. It was about losing control. Losing the person who usually held everything together behind the scenes. Me. I hadn't expected them to unravel so quickly. Then came the message from a number I knew too well. "Dad, you need to come fix this." Not please. Not we're sorry. Just a demand, cold and familiar. I put my phone face down on the counter. The bakery owner knocked lightly on my door to remind me the heating vent would rattle all afternoon. I thanked her. Her kindness, so simple and unforced, felt foreign. Like stepping into warm water after years of cold. Minutes later, the buzzing started again. "Dad, this is childish. Come back." "Well, your uncle is asking for you." "Cousin, they're arguing. Please talk to them." 3 messages. 3 different tones. 3 forms of panic. I breathed slowly, letting the warm scent of vanilla and baking bread fill my lungs. Maybe they were finally realizing what I had known for years. Love isn't guaranteed by blood. Support isn't owed by obligation. Presence isn't something you earn by being small. It wasn't my job to hold the family together. Not anymore. Around 1 p.m. the real storm arrived. A call. From my uncle. My heart tightened, not in fear but in memory. He'd always been the quieter adult, the one who never talked over me, the one who taught me how to tie knots for camping and how to check oil in my car. I answered on the second ring. Ev. His voice shook. Not with anger, with something closer to worry. It's a mess here. I sat on the edge of the bed, the sunlight warm on my back. What happened? He exhaled like he'd been holding the breath all morning. They're fighting about you. Your mom is crying. Your dad is pacing. They can barely focus on the ceremony. I closed my eyes. This wasn't satisfaction. This wasn't revenge. This was something heavier. A mourning for a family that couldn't hold itself together unless someone invisible stitched the seams. Ev, he continued softly, I didn't want this. They shouldn't have said what they said. I know, I whispered. The bakery vent rattled overhead, the sound oddly comforting. You don't owe them anything, he said. But I just needed you to know that your absence is felt. Not accusation. Not guilt. Just truth. I swallowed. Do you want me to come? I asked quietly. He paused. The silence wasn't heavy, it was thoughtful. No, he said. Not for them. Not for today. Come when you're ready. For you. I felt something soften inside me, gently, like cloth loosening after being pulled too tight. Thank you, I murmured. He chuckled lightly, an exhale of relief. Also, the rings were in your mother's coat pocket. A small, almost reluctant smile tugged at my lips. Of course they were. A knock sounded faintly in the background on his end. Voices rose. Someone called his name sharply. I have to go, he said gently. But Ev, I'm proud of you. Really. When the call ended, I sat in stillness. The muted city noise drifted in from outside. Cars humming, a dog barking, someone laughing across the street. Life continuing. My phone buzzed again. A final text from my father. We'll talk later. But I knew that wasn't an invitation. It was a warning. If you've lived anything like this, tell your story, and don't forget to subscribe. I stood, opened the window and let the cool air rush in. The world outside felt spacious in a way my family home never had. A future stretched before me, unplanned, undemanded, unmistakably mine. And as I watched the wedding church bells ring faintly in the distance, I finally understood. Sometimes the panic they feel is the peace you've earned. Peace arrives when we let go.